You have a pinned tweet that says, money has always been a balance sheet of who owes whom. This accounting needs to be agreed upon, and there's only three known ways. One, with social consensus. Two, with matter. Three, with energy. That's a pretty profound tweet about money, so I have to ask you, Willie, what does that mean? What is money?
Yeah, so um yeah, well, if you think about money, I mean, Robert, you're one of the experts on this kind of deep thinking. It really is a ledger of who owns whom value. And so if you look at it historically, way back in the day, we used to use rare things like, seashells, and commodities that were rare. And so these are like examples of keeping track of value using, a token. Maybe it's a lump of gold. And so all these things are in the physical realm. And so we're really relying on a scarce element. So basically atoms, chunks of matter that hopefully you find a commodity that is very, very hard to make more of. And gold was one of those, maybe silver as well. So we used matter as a form of keeping an honest ledger. And then we moved on to maybe some of the early tribes use social consensus, like, mana in New Zealand terms, effectively social respect and ranking. And in this fiat world, you could say that could be translated into political power and shaping belief and consensus to vote on who may be controlling the Fed or controlling the government, who then appoints the Fed and is in charge of the money printer. So you get this sort of system where people are now trying to shape belief or social political advantage. And also you could say even a proof of stake protocol is a bit like that, because you've got this crypto project that is, trying to convince everyone that this is decentralized, that everyone has a stake in it, and behind the scenes maybe it's a few whales or the crypto founding team that has a lot of the tokens that effectively control the consensus through that proof of stake mechanism. The transactions can be overridden by enough stake in that network. So again, that social consensus. And then, if you think about Bitcoin, it is really, the consensus is based on energy. If you're going to 51% attack the Bitcoin network, you will need to control 51% of the energy. Now, energy is a pretty hard thing to control, right? If you want to control, say, 50% of the available energy, that's intrinsically tied to the technology level of the civilization. There's a very, very strong correlation. In fact, technology is driven by energy. And, even for the cosmologists out there, there's the Kardashev scale, which is about how you can measure effectively the technology level of civilization from, say, the first level, I think, is really when you capture all the available energy of your planet. That's level one. We're not there yet. And then all of the energy available from your star, right? And then the last one is you can capture all the available energy in your galaxy to harness it for your civilizations. So there, in terms of keeping an honest ledger, that's going to scale with the advancement of technology, whereas, say, using gold won't, because eventually you get off the planet and there's no limitation on gold as a scarce asset once you can mine, say, asteroid. And that's not far away, actually. And so on that view, it is a very defensible way of keeping a fair ledger. You could also say there's a very, very strong correlation between energy and effectively GDP. So, the whole economy runs on energy. So on one side of the equation, you have the economy, like maybe $100 trillion. And the other side of it is really the money we trade for that. And to control money and take, effectively unfair advantage of it, you would need to, if it was an energy coin like Bitcoin, you would need to control half of the world's energy. So as the GDP scales, again, your money is also very, very robust against that scaling. So ultimately, I think all advanced civilizations will need to have an energy coin. Else we're just going to go through cycles of corruption and manipulation of the money, and then we blow up and start again and again. So I thought it was a relatively, I too thought it was relatively profound to stumble on that. I wasn't just the only, it was really borrowing and ripping off of other people as well to get to this conclusion. And I thought it was very profound, but actually it wasn't very well received on Twitter. Normally we tweet something, it's like, wow, it goes off or doesn't. And certainly that one, I don't think people really saw how important that is in the long scheme of things, or how important an energy coin is to civilization.
Yeah, no, well, maybe it landed wrong with your audience, but I think it will land well with mine. We do a lot of these philosophical waxing about the nature of money, and I thought this was a really good one. You highlighted one point. We've often described money as like a system for trading favors, which is exactly what you're saying here, right? Like a balance sheet of who owes whom. But and so it's, in that sense, it's a social construct, right? We've just created this list of like who rendered what favors to who, what was valuable. And then whoever has that money can then go and get favors from other people in the form of goods or services. So it's this accounting system for human cooperation, very much a social construct like English or the calendar or, civil liberties, like things that we just kind of make up to live by, or things that we use, these abstract tools. But the weird thing about money is that it can't just be abstract. I mean, it can, like that's sort of what fiat is, but when you unroot it from physics, well, you get fiat currency, right? People manipulate it, corrupt it, hyperinflate it. It needs some type of anchoring into physical reality, because physical reality, we have real constraints, like the time and energy necessary to produce goods and services. So I think it's a unique this is maybe why it's so interesting to talk about in this context. It's the only social construct, I think, that has to be rooted in physical reality, whereas all of our other social constructs are just abstract, English, whatever it may be. And so I think when you get that framing, you see why Bitcoin is so unique, right? And proof of work is indispensable, that you have to have energy expenditure to have integrity of the money supply such that you don't get corrupted, manipulated, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.